For this pattern you have to cast on an odd number of stitches, and you can do a few versions of this pattern. You can choose the height of the broken rib columns. So if you do all the 24 rows of the pattern, you're gonna get some higher columns. If you're gonna skip some rows, I'm gonna show you which ones, you're gonna get smaller columns. So let's start. The beginning is the usual brioche knitting, so we start with the edge stitch and knit stitch, and then for the first row is the usual repeat, slip on yarn over, knit one. Slip on yarn over means you go with the needle under the yarn and slip purlwise the stitch and knit one. Is knit one. Doesn't need an explanation, I hope. So we just repeat this until the last two stitches, the symmetry stitch and the edge stitch. So here they are. The symmetry stitch is going to be slip one yarn over, and the last edge stitch in color one is always slip one purlwise with yarn in front. So after that we slide all the stitches to the other end, pick up the second color yarn, put the tails together and start slip purlwise the first edge stitch, and then begin the repeat, and it's going to be brioche purl, slip on yarn over, brioche purl, slip on yarn over. Brioche purl means you knit together the stitch and the yarn over, and slip on yarn over just like we did in the previous row. So this is the whole repeat, and you do that until you have only two stitches left on the needle, like in every row. So here are the last two stitches, and the symmetry stitch is gonna be brioche purl, and the last edge stitch. In color 2 they're gonna be different. When we are purling the row and the working yarn is in front, we leave it in front. For the last edge stitch we just slip it with yarn in front, and in the rows when we're gonna brioche knit, we're gonna leave it in the back because we're knitting and the yarn is in the back. So turn the work, and we're starting row number 3, 7 and 11. As usual, the first edge stitch, knit one, and then the repeat is slip on yarn over, brioche purl. So nothing new, we just repeat, slip on yarn over, brioche purl. The last two stitches, and we're gonna slip on yarn over and slip the last edge stitch purlwise with yarn in front. After that, slide the stitches to the other end, and we're gonna start row number 4, and row number 8 is the same. So slip purlwise the first edge stitch, and then begin the repeat, brioche knit, slip on yarn over. Brioche knit means you knit together the stitch and the yarn over, and slip on yarn over as usual. So repeat that until you have only two stitches left on the needle. Here I have two stitches left. This is one stitch, as I said, the stitch and the yarn over, and brioche is considered one stitch, so we brioche knit this symmetry stitch, and then As I said, the rule is if we're knitting, the yarn is in the back, we leave it in the back. So we slip the last edge stitch purlwise with yarn in the back. So, row number 5, we're turning the work, pick up the first color yarn, and we're knitting row number 5. Knit the first edge stitch and begin the repeat, and it's slip on yarn over, brioche knit. And again we do this repeat until we get to the last 2 stitches. So slip on yarn over, brioche knit. And the last 2 stitches, and we're gonna slip on yarn over, and the last edge stitch as usual, slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front. So we're gonna skip rows 6, 7, 8 and 9 because they're similar to the rows that I showed you, and the one row, the next row that doesn't repeat is row number 12, and we're gonna come back with that. Row number 12, so we slip purlwise the first edge stitch and we start the repeat, and it's gonna be brioche knit, slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front. So repeat again, brioche knit, slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front. The symmetry stitch is brioche knit, and the last edge stitch as usual follows the rule. We are knitting, brioche knitting, and we leave it in the back. So turn the work, row number 13, we pick up the first color yarn, and this is like a breaking point because 12 rows are having the first color columns like here, and then we're gonna have them up above, but in this place you're gonna see, but you're gonna, so this is the height of the column if you do all the 24 rows, and if you want smaller columns you're just gonna skip some rows like I said in the beginning. So let's do it, and we're gonna see that later. So we start as usual with the edge stitch, knit 1, and then we are starting the brioche from the beginning, but in row number 1 we did slip on yarn over, knit 1, and then the row number 13 we're gonna do knit 1, slip on yarn over. So this difference is what changes the place of the columns. So like I said, knit 1 is above the brioche purl column, so, and this is where the brioche knit is gonna be. You just have to know that you have to slip with the yarn over the stitch of the same color, and then knit 1, the stitch in color number 2. The symmetry stitch is knit 1, and the edge stitch as usual, slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front. So slide the stitches to the other end, pick up the second color yarn, and begin a row number 14, and rows 18 and 22 are the same. So we slip purlwise the first edge stitch, and then begin the repeat, and it's gonna be slip-on yarn over, brioche purl. So we slip-on yarn over the single stitch, we just add a yarn over, and the stitch and the yarn over, we just brioche purl it. So very simple, just repeat slip-on yarn over, brioche purl. The last two stitches, the symmetry stitch, slip-on yarn over, and the edge stitch. Since we are purling, we leave it in front and slip purlwise the last edge stitch. So turn the work and continue. Pick up the first color yarn, and we're gonna knit row number 15. Knit the first edge stitch, and then the repeat is gonna be brioche purl, slip-on yarn over. So we brioche purl that double stitch and slip-on yarn over the single stitch. So continue, brioche purl, slip-on yarn over. The last edge stitch is a brioche purl, and the last edge stitch, the symmetry stitch is a brioche purl, and the last edge stitch, slip-on purlwise with yarn in front as usual. Slide the stitches to the other end, pick up the second color yarn, and we're gonna knit row number 16. Slip the first edge stitch purlwise and begin the repeat. And it's slip-on yarn over. So we go like this under the yarn is in the back, we just slip it, so we have the yarn over and the stitch, and then brioche knit. So we continue, slip-on yarn over, brioche knit. The symmetry stitch is slip-on yarn over, and the edge stitch, slip one purlwise with yarn in the back. Turn the work, pick up the first color yarn, and knit row number 17. Knit the first edge stitch, and then the repeat is gonna be brioche knit. So we knit the stitch and the yarn over, and then slip-on yarn over. So just repeat this, brioche knit, slip-on yarn over. And the symmetry stitch is brioche knit, and the edge stitch, slip-on purlwise with yarn in front as usual. And then rows 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 and 23 are repeating the ones that I showed you already. So the one that I have to show you is row number 24, and we're gonna come back for that. Row number 24, and we slip purlwise the first edge stitch, and then the repeat is gonna be slip purlwise with yarn in front. So we just, this first stitch is kind of messed up, but the next are gonna be okay. So we slip it with yarn in front, and then the next part of the repeat is brioche knit. So after these few stitches, 2 stitches. It's gonna be nice. Okay, so we slip purlwise with yarn in front and then brioche knit and repeat. Slip purlwise with yarn in front, brioche knit. So we put the yarn in front and slip the stitch and then put it in the back and brioche knit and repeat. In the beginning I showed you it's a little bit complicated, it's different, but in the beginning of this row, but after that it's everything is normal. So the last symmetry stitch is slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front, and then the edge stitch is slip 1 purlwise with yarn in the back, since we were brioche knitting. So this is row number 24, and this is the whole repeat, all the rows for this height of the columns. If you want higher, you can do it even, I don't know, a palm's height column, and then break the rib. For that, you're just gonna repeat the 4 rows that I show you in the chart. You repeat them a few times. Rows 5, 6, 7, 8, and then rows 17, 18, 19, and 20. You just have to repeat them 2 times, 3 times, how much you want to, and you get higher columns. And for shorter columns, you just have to skip the rows that I show you, and you're gonna get the columns that you're gonna see in my swatch. I'm gonna make them smaller and smaller.